Right. So last class, we started extracting information, as was said before. And we talked about critical comprehension. So critical readers, thinkers, and writers pose pertinent questions, note significant features, examine relationships, and consider the credibility of what they read, see, and hear, right? And we know that in the paper one, and also in the paper two, paper for English A, they're going to be reading comprehension questions as well as English B. Yeah, I'm sure in English B they have that as well. Right. So we're no stranger to reading comprehension. So some steps to reading critically. Number one, we recognize the literal meaning of the text, image, or what is said. We make inferences about explicit or implied meanings. We make judgments in response to what we've read, seen, or heard. And lastly, we express or write the information that we have received and understood. So as we go forward, if there's anything you want clarification with, or if there's anything you want to get from the slides, feel free to, tell me to slow down, or if you want to see what's happening on the slides, right? Your mic was open?
I was saying, okay.
Okay, right. So it talks about extracting explicit information. And we know that explicit information is anything that is clearly stated. So there's no hidden meaning. Nobody's asking you to interpret or discuss or explain. It's just stated there plainly in the text, right? So we talked about 4 different strategies to use in literal comprehension, right? So we have previewing, finding keywords, skimming, and scanning. So sometimes in the exam, you will feel as if you don't have enough time to read, or probably you're looking over your answers to certain questions, but you don't have time to read over all of the text. So you can use these strategies to help you, whether it is predicting questions that CXC or examiner might ask you, or to find the answer to explicitly stated questions, right? And we know that common comprehension questions include the basic who, what, when, where, and sometimes the why of a piece. So whether it's poetry, prose, drama, an article, whatever it is, these are some basic questions that you might be asked in the exam, right? And then we went through different extracts as well. I'm going to go through all of that. And now today we're on facts versus opinion, right? But before we go there, we have a word of the day. So that's another, I guess you could say, initiative for this class. We have a word for the day every time we meet. So you as a student, you can volunteer a word, or I will come here and give a word, right? So the word for today is hyperbole, or hyperbole, right? I'm not sure if you're familiar with this word. Are you familiar with it? Are you hearing me?
I didn't lose because I had a disconnection a little bit of that.
Oh, I was asking you if you're, what do you call it, familiar with the word hyperbole.
Not really. It seems like a word I'm hearing, but don't really know the definition.
All right. So hyperbole is a word that you might, well, I think you'll have to learn it in English literature. But hyperbole is a language that describes something as much better or worse than it really is. So an example of that is, I'm so hungry I could eat a horse. You know, stuff like that, that it's exaggerating the concept or feeling, those are hyperboles, right? So a little history behind that word. In the 15th century BCE, there was a rabble-rousing Athenian politician named Hyperbolus. So his politician style was that he was a leader who makes use of popular prejudices and false claims and promises in order to gain power. And of course, we have politicians like that even today. So people might think that he was the originator of the word hyperbole, but it actually comes from the Greek verb hyperbalein, meaning to exceed. Not sure if I pronounced that right, but yeah, to exceed, meaning beyond and to throw, right? So I think maybe in your class, your teacher might ask you to identify certain figures of speech, and hyperbole would be one of them. So look out for that in your other class, right? So now we can start for today. So facts versus opinion. Is all information credible? How do we know if information is credible or not? And what are some strategies or things we do to verify facts? So you can volunteer to speak, or if you have anything you'd want to add, you can let me know. So is all information credible?
About the heart, as I was saying, I heard of the word. I haven't really done anything for English so far. It's like essay and short story. That's all we've been doing.
Oh, I'm not hearing you properly, but you were saying that you've heard it before, but you haven't experienced it or applied it in literature as yet. That's what you were saying? Are you hearing me? Oh, okay. Yeah, so you can type in the chat if you're having connection issues or yeah. So let's continue. So here we have a video. I hope that it plays. Yes, right. So we have a video on facts and opinions in the media. So I'm gonna play it. Let me know if you're hearing it. You can type it in the chat again, right? So let's watch the video.
Understanding the news used to be simpler. Newspapers, radio, and TV usually made a clear distinction between objective fact that can be proven and opinion crafted by their writers and producers. They used terms like editorial, op-ed, and commentary to distinguish opinionated content from more objective reporting. But over the years, the internet has helped blur the line between fact and opinion in the media. Now there are virtually limitless sources creating content online, and terms like editorial and op-ed have all but faded away. There's also no vetting process or authority that requires anyone to mention if their online content is fact or opinion. Just to be clear, opinions are not inherently bad things when it comes to reporting the news. They can provide new context or a different perspective. Opinions have also played an influential part in history, such as when news anchor Walter Cronkite shared his personal views on the Vietnam War in 1968. Of course, perspectives like that were typically designated as opinion. But these days, we seem to have lost some of our ability to detect opinion-based material if it isn't properly labeled. Unfortunately, there are content creators out there who are happy to take advantage of that. They mix opinions in with a few facts to make their perspective seem more credible. This helps fire up your emotions and keep you engaged with their content. At this point, you may be thinking that you could tell the difference between fact and opinion. Well, it may be harder than it looks. A Pew Research study created 5 factual statements and 5 opinion statements, and then asked people to identify which was which. Out of 5,000 adults, only 35% correctly identified all 5 opinion statements, while only 26% identified all of the factual statements. That means the vast majority either saw facts as opinions or accepted opinions as fact. Misinterpretations like these could easily lead to confusion and difficulty in discussing the news with others. The study also found that people were more likely to view an opinion as fact if that opinion matched their existing beliefs. The blur between fact and opinion likely won't get better anytime soon, so it's up to us to spot the difference. For instance, watch out for statements that may seem factual, but are actually opinions that favor a certain perspective. And while you may still find terms like editorial every now and then, don't rely on them to help you distinguish fact from opinion. Finally, avoid news sources that care more about stoking your anger and fears over reporting objective news. Though it may be difficult, recognizing fact and opinion in the media can make a tremendous impact on how you see the world.
Right. So I hope you heard the video or you're able to understand what was happening. So we're here again on facts and opinions. So why is any of this beneficial to your English study or course or whatever? Well, you have to extract information from many different sources. And even in your own writing, you have to be careful not to be overly opinionated in some contexts, so that your information that you're writing about or the topic that you're discussing is factual and objective. So people can understand what you're saying without being swayed by opinion. Now, of course, as was said before, opinion is not always bad. And in some contexts and cases, you'll be asked to give an opinionated or personal view on certain topics. And you have to also use facts to back up your statement, because obviously this is a academic setting. So you have to use facts in what you're stating, but you can also be a little subjective in certain cases. And also you see that in persuasive writing as well, you have to be careful that even though you're expressing your view or you're pushing a certain moot, whether you're for or against the moot, you have to make sure that you're also factual in your statement, right? So are you understanding so far? Let me know.
GCF
You're saying something? Oh, okay, good. Right. So if you have any questions, again, feel free to ask. You can type it in the chat. Yeah. All right. So what are the differences between facts and opinions? So facts are convincing support for a specific claim. So you might be asking, well, opinions can be convincing as well, but facts are also statements that can be verified and proven to be true or false. So just because something is a fact doesn't mean that it has to be true, right? Or just because a factual statement is being given, it don't always have to be true, because we think that facts are just true, but they can also be proven to be false. So facts are also objective. They contain information but do not tell what the writer thinks or beliefs about the topic. So all of your personal beliefs, your feelings towards the topic, whether it's positive or negative, they cannot be in what you are writing or what the writer is expressing if they are expressing a factual statement. And lastly, facts are based on observation or research, and it also uses empirical data and information. So it can be measured, it can be observed, it can be researched on, it can be experimented on, you can do a survey on it. These are what facts are, right? And then opinions now are expressions of belief, feelings, attitudes, or judgment about something or even someone. Opinions are debatable, they cannot be verified or proven, right? And nowadays, we know, especially on social media and all of that, that opinions are most times pushed as facts. So if you don't believe in my opinion or you don't agree with what I have to say, then you are in the wrong, which is not true because opinions can always be debatable. And opinions can be varied and subjective statements, and they are based on personal view, values, and assumptions. Right. Right. So an example of facts, most buses weigh more than cars. You can obviously observe that or research that, and we'll say, yeah, most buses do weigh more than cars. It feels like, one moment, please. Right. So it feels like a very statistical statement. Let's just say it like that. And then another example is statistically, women live longer than men. Can it be researched? Yes. Can a survey be done? Can a experiment be done or something? Yes, it can be done. So these are examples of facts. So whether they are right or wrong, it's still a factual statement. And opinion examples are math is the hardest subject, right? It can be debatable. A lot of people struggle with maths, but other people, they don't. So because of that, it's a varied and subjective statement. Ed Sheeran's music is boring. That's another example of opinion. So all of these things that involve personal feelings and beliefs, we label all of these as opinion. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna end the session here and then create a new session for you to join because I don't want it to just cut off in the middle. So I'm gonna stop here and then we'll come back, yeah, after I make a new meeting. All right. So let me stop there. Right. So now we're gonna talk about keywords, statements, and strategies we use to identify facts and opinions. So with facts, we can have research confirms, or the writer quotes an expert on the topic. It is verified by manuscripts, witnesses, and documents, or we have according to, and there's a source, right? So these are just some of the few strategies or statements that we can use to identify facts. Because of course, facts don't always have to start with these things. But from the previous slide, we see that once it is objective, meaning that there's no feelings attached, that it is a fact if it can be proven true or false. But in the video as well, we see that sometimes facts can be shown in a way that caters for a particular opinion or belief. So you have to also look out for that as well, because it would no longer be objective if that was the intention behind quoting a particular factual statement or statement. And then opinion, we have I think, I believe, I feel, in my opinion, some people think, some people claim, etc., etc. Then we have biased words: always, never, awful, wonderful, beautiful, ugly, better, best, worst. So when you're speaking factually, you can have no bias associated with anything that you're saying if it is a factual statement. And then we have qualifiers: all, always, probably, possibly, never. So these words cannot be used in a factual statement. And lastly, opinions are most likely written according to positions on controversial issues, predictions about things in the future, evaluations of people, places, and things. So all of these are situations where you'll find a lot of opinion. So again, you have to make sure to check your sources, make sure that the person who is writing, whether it's an article or poetry, prose, that whatever they're writing or the way how they structure their writing, if you want factual statements, if you want something that's research based, make sure that you evaluate whether it is factual or opinionated. And then you can ask the questions: can the statement be proven to be true or demonstrated to be true? Can it be observed in practice or operation? Can you see it happen? Is it universal? So all of these questions you can ask to know whether it is factual. Yeah. And of course, you're gonna have to use these same skills in your own research writing. And what else? Research writing, persuasive writing, even expository writing, you have to make sure that it stays strictly factual, or if it's opinionated, make sure that it's not too informal, depending on the context or what the question is asking, right? So here we have a small activity. So I'm not sure if your mic is working still, but you can type the answer in the chat. So fact or opinion. So number one, according to sales records, strawberry ice cream is the worst selling of all flavors. Pardon me.
I think that's a fact because it says according to sales reports, and that's a company's.
Right. So it would be fact, because as you said, it says according to sales records. So these are a set of people who deal with selling and sales. So of course, it has to be factual, right? So number two, therefore, we can conclude that strawberry is the least popular major ice cream flavor.
An opinion.
Opinion? That's what you said?
Yes.
Okay. So in this case, we can say it is factual. Why? Even though there is no, what do you call it? There's no according to or research confirms or whatever. This is an objective statement because it's drawing on the sales records to say that, okay, since strawberry ice cream is the worst selling, then it is the least popular ice cream flavor. So whether it is true or false, it can still be identified as a fact. Do you understand? Okay. And then lastly, we have, this is because strawberry ice cream does not taste good as vanilla and chocolate. So which one is this last one?
An opinion.
Yes. So of course, this one would be the opinion because it can be debatable, right? Some people like vanilla, some people like chocolate, some people like strawberry. Some people think strawberry is better, or vanilla is better, or chocolate is better. So it can be debatable. And yeah, it's an opinionated fact. So let's move on. So identify which sentences are factual or opinionated. So it's another little activity. So I'm going to read the entire paragraph and then we can go through the different sentences. So flowering plants that are native to the south include purple coneflower and rose verbena. In the view of many longtime gardeners, these two plants are an essential part of the southern landscape. Trees that are native to the south include a variety of oaks, as well as flowering dogwoods and redwoods. Dogwoods are especially lovely with their white, pink, or coral blossoms announcing the arrival of spring. For fall color, the deep red of the Virginia willow makes a spectacular show, in the native southern garden, right? So in this little paragraph, we can see a mixture of factual and opinionated statements. And of course, in your own writing, especially expository writing, as I was saying before, you can alternate between factual and opinionated statements depending on the context and depending on your audience as well. So, flowering plants that are native to the south include purple coneflower and rose verbena. So we can say that this is indeed a factual statement because there's no subjective nature to this sentence or statement. It's just plain. You can look it up on the internet to see if it's true or false. And yeah, that's just it. It's a factual statement. In the second sentence, we have, in the view of many longtime gardeners, these two plants are an essential part of the southern landscape. So this would be an example of informed opinion. Why? Well, informed opinion comes from a speaker who has current and relevant background to a specific topic. And it says in the view of. So it's taking into consideration their own personal experience and feelings toward these particular plants. So that would be an example of informed opinion. So number 3, trees that are native to the south include a variety of oaks as well as flowering dogwoods and redwoods. So can you tell me if this is factual or opinionated?
It's factual.
Yes. So we have another factual statement there. Dogwoods are especially lovely with their white, pink, or coral blossoms announcing the arrival of spring. So this again would be an example of opinionated, but this is in the opinion of the writer themselves, not like an informed person. So we have one example of opinion here. And then lastly, for fall color, the deep red of the Virginia willow makes a spectacular show in the native southern garden. And again, we have another example of opinion. Because in their opinion, the red of the willow complements the fall color of the southern garden, right? So let's talk about informed opinion. So informed opinion is opinions coming from experts in a particular field, and this comes from their observations and comments, and they're not really strictly factual. Instead, they are based on years of study, research, and experience, right? So again, opinion is not evil. Some people who have relevant experience and knowledge, they can offer what do you call it? Useful opinions. And even we ourselves, as you know, we rate ourselves as normal people. We can also give opinions on certain topics if we are well informed on the certain topic, that is, because anybody can say anything, anybody can talk whatever they want to talk, but is it, what do you call it? Is it useful? Is it helpful? Is it, can it be seen objective in a sense? Does it make sense of the topic we're talking about? So we have to take these things into consideration as well. So how do we identify informed opinion? Does the speaker have a current and relevant background to the topic? Is the speaker generally respected within the field? Does the speaker carefully signal via judgment words to identify when they're presenting opinions versus facts? Sorry. So yes, these are all strategies or questions we can use to identify informed opinion. And just like in the previous activity, we see that the writer themselves, they used the judgment words or cue words to signal that they're presenting an informed opinion, which is in the view of the gardeners, right? So here we're going to look at an article that shows us an example of informed opinion. So this article is entitled, I Raised Two Successful CEOs and a Doctor. Here's a parenting style I never used on my kids. And this is by Esther Wojcicki. And first of all, we see the title. So of course, there's some questions we can ask to see if we can trust this lady's opinion. So she says she raised two successful CEOs, and a doctor. So we have to verify, is it true? Is she really a parent of these people? And then she speaks on parenting style. Does she have the qualifications to speak on parenting style? Of course, she is a parent, but does she have relevant experience or relevant information, I should say, on the topic of parenting styles, right? So Esther Wojcicki, just some background on her to answer these questions. She's an American journalist, educator, and vice chair of the Creative Commons Advisory Council. She studied education and technology. She's mother of the CEO of YouTube, which is Susan Wojcicki, the CEO of 23andMe, Annie Wojcicki, and epidemiologist and anthropologist, Janet Wojcicki. So of course, here we already see that she's indeed telling the truth. She has two CEO daughters and one doctor. A daughter who's a doctor, I should say, right? And she is often quoted to be America's most famous mom, according to a CityBiz article. So from this background, we can see that, oh, maybe we can get something from this article. So whenever you are getting a research question or topic, I'm not sure if you, well, I think, yeah, you might have to research some things for your writing, right? So whenever you're researching and you're taking from sources, not everybody is experienced, not everybody knows what they're talking about, and not everyone's information can be used to push a specific point, especially in persuasive writing, because most time we just grab whichever article seems like it makes sense to us. Again, sorry. But is the person credible? We have to make sure that we check these things as well. Can they be trusted? Can the information be used in an academic sense? Right. So here we have a little extract from the article. And so we're gonna read, well, I'm gonna read it for you. So it says, when writing my book, How to Raise Successful People, I received so many questions about different parenting approaches. But what everyone really wanted to know was, what is the worst parenting style? Based on my experience and research, I believe helicopter parenting is the most toxic. What is helicopter parenting? Helicopter parenting, sometimes called snowplow parenting, is when you constantly remove obstacles so that your kids don't have to deal with challenges and frustrations. This form of hyper-involvement disempowers children. You're essentially doing everything for them and making sure all their needs are met even before you know they have a need. Studies say it also hurts kids' abilities to develop self-control, problem-solving skills, navigate conflict on their own, and create an identity separate from their parents. So here we have a very powerful introduction so far, but how do you know which sections are opinionated, and how do you know that she's signaling her own informed opinion? So here we have some highlights. So she brings up her own experience. She wrote a book on how to raise successful people. This is her own writing. She's drawing on her own experience because again, she has the children. They are CEOs and one is a doctor. So she's speaking from her experience. And I'm sure she was speaking from her experience or perspective in her book as well. And she's directly answering the question from people, what is the worst parenting style? And then she signals it by saying, based on my experience and research, I believe helicopter parenting is the most toxic. Some people will agree, some people will disagree. Another person might come and say, well, helicopter parenting has its positives as well. It is debatable, quote unquote, but this is her informed opinion. And she used her experience and research as well. And then, of course, we have the key term, which is helicopter parenting, right here. And then she provides her own, what do you call it? Her own definition for this term. But she also brings in a factual statement to say that studies say it also hurts kids' abilities to, etc., etc. So this is a good example of how to write with an informed opinion, or how an informed piece would look. And along with sharing her own experience, she also uses factual statement to add more, what do you call that? Supporting evidence to her claim. Because her claim is that helicopter parenting is the most toxic. But of course, she's not gonna leave it to just say, oh, believe what I say because, you know, in my experience, that. But she's also using studies to back up her claim, right? So I hope that you would have learned something from this evening's session, sorry. And I'm gonna give you the Google Classroom code. I'm gonna put it in the chat. Right, so it's in the chat. And yeah, you can join the Google Classroom from there. I will add resources for you guys. If there is any issue or topic that you are struggling with, let me know so I can upload resources there as well. And yeah, if you have any questions, you can tell me them now. So let me just stop the recording so I can hear if you have any questions.